Premier League primetime on tape. Jose, Cyrus, and Andre. And you know that Dave I don't play. In the field, they can talk about it all day. Look, and we moving up. You can try all you want, can't move like us. When it all comes down, they choosing us. And I do gotta say we don't give a fuck. Premier League primetime, and it's only that. Speak only facts. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Can't hold me back. Premier League primetime, better yet, it's my time. You stay on the sideline. Say what I want, can't hold me back. Premier League primetime.
Hello and welcome back to Premier League Primetime Season 2, Episode 9. It's been a long while, a very long while since the last episode of Premier League Primetime. Of course, who else? And it's been a very long time since I've seen these three. It's been a very long while. Should I ask the question for old time's sake? Yeah, probably. Just for the funnies and the lulz. How are all of you doing? I've missed it. I've missed the no response very much. But no, real talk here. How are all of you doing? It's been a very long while. Lovely, brilliant again. Cannot be asked. Anyways, let's get straight into this episode. Starting off, of course, as per usual, with Arsenal. Starting off with Sirius. Looking at their run of games, it's been kind of a bit of a roller coaster, up and down. Wins against Watford and Leicester, but a loss against Liverpool, a win against Aston Villa, losing 3-0 to Palace. I fancy that. Losing at home 2-1 to Brighton. I wish it was Neil Mopai that scored the winner. I'm sure Sagan would have been very happy with that. Southampton beating Arsenal by 1-0. Winning at Stamford Bridge, beating Chelsea by 4-2, and beating Manchester United at home by 3-1. Scores and ratings for Arsenal and Mikel Arteta and players that have stood out to you, whether it's in a positive way or in a negative way.
Yeah, it's been up and you guys can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear.
Yeah, it's been up and down for sure. I think that it kind of shows character to lose those games that we should have won and to beat the big teams. Well, Man U, to beat the big teams like that. I think I don't know, if I had to give it a rating, I think I honestly give like a 6.5. Like while we did lose those 3 games that we should have won, we did beat those 2 big teams, and it was, pretty great wins, to be honest. I think players that have stood out, I'd have to say Elneny and Xhaka. I don't.
Oh yes, he's bigging up his boy, Granit Xhaka. Yes.
This is not to say I don't want. I still really just don't want Xhaka in the starting lineup next year. I know that's maybe controversial these days, but I always feel like he has that error in him. But still, not shitting on Xhaka right now. Him and Elneny were great. I think Elneny, while he isn't a long-term solution right now against some of the big teams, he can be a little useful. I think he just, he does the minimum, and sometimes that's all you need. I think Elneny's been good. Xhaka's been good. Pickups in Nketiah. I don't think he's good enough, but he did good against Chelsea. So yeah,
yes, his boy, yes, the boy Eddie Nketiah. He's looking world class. With this call me celebration. His goals against Chelsea. Looking like prime Thierry Henry against Manchester United, the way he was holding up the ball and all that. But what would you do if you saw Nketiah given the captain's armband and number 9 as the starting striker for Arsenal on a brand new 8-year contract?
I'd probably kill myself, but that won't happen. I think I don't know. I think maybe Nketiah can be a backup striker next year, depending on what happens with Lacazette, or he could go on loan. I'm not saying some. I don't think we should, but I think he's definitely not gonna. I hope he's not gonna be our starting striker next year. He still has a lot of room to grow. He needs to work on a lot of stuff. But I was impressed with him against Chelsea. He did what he had to. Maybe got some lucky bounces, but that's the life of being a striker. So I give Arteta. Honestly, I don't know if the losses were complete. It's probably maybe some changes. I'd give Arteta like a 6-7. I thought when I first saw that lineup against Chelsea, I was like, what is going on? This is a disgusting lineup. But it worked out. So I have to give credit to him for that. But overall, I hope we continue our form. And we have it sucks that we lost those games that we should have won, but we still have a good chance for top four.
Yeah, 100%. You're definitely right in the thick of the race. And lastly, before we move to Aston Villa, a new cheeky rating for you, Sly Guy. And Aaron Ramsdale, shithousery rating. What are you saying?
I fancied what he did against Bruno for sure, even though he didn't even save it, which makes it 10 times better. I'd give him a 10 out of 10.
The shithousery from Aaron Ramsdale season's been absolutely unreal. Next, of course, we're going to go right into Aston Villa. And of course, let's go over to Jose. Of course, all is well drilled, all is well prepared. Scores and ratings for Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard after I go over games that they've played. A 4-0 win against Southampton, winning 3-0 again against Leeds United, a 2-1 loss to West Ham, a 1-0 loss to Arsenal, a 2-1 loss to Wolves, a 4-0 loss to Tottenham, and a 0-0 draw against Leicester. Not looking too great in that run of games. Scores and ratings for Aston Villa and Steven Gerrard, and players that have stood out to you, whether it's in a negative or positive way.
Yeah, I think they started this run of games really well. 2 clean sheets, 2 games where they scored a lot of goals, combined goal difference of 7-0. I think that they've really disappointed though in the last few games. They've had some difficult opposition though, I have to say. I think the Leicester one, they'll be disappointed not to get 3 points. I think against all the other teams though, getting a draw is like probably the best possibility. So I think that you can't put too much on it. I'd probably go. Are we doing A B C D, or we're doing like?
I mean, serious for the numbers, so I guess we'll just stick with the numbers.
Right, numbers. I'd give them a 6 out of 10. I think that their recent results haven't been impressive, but it's also they've been facing tough opposition.
Fair enough. And players have stood out to you, whether it's in a negative way or positive way, for a good
form. Yeah, in the victories, I think positively Coutinho and Matty Cash really stuck out. Consistently over the whole run of games. John McGinn has just looked consistently the best in their team. And then negatively, I'd probably say Ezri Konsa, he's looked a shadow of the player he once was for them, to be honest.
Yeah, 100%. Something's wrong with Ezri Konsa. He's definitely in this run of games. He definitely does not look like his usual self. And do you think Steven Gerrard will go out and get a new center back, or do you think he would fancy Side Guy's boy, Callum Chambers in the back?
I mean, I think he should. I think their attack and their midfield is strong enough, so I think that he should. Whether he will, I don't know.
Fair enough. Next, of course, we are going right into Brentford and back again with Mr. Andre. Taking a look at Brentford's games, winning 3-1 against Norwich away from home, a 2-0 win against Burnley, a 2-1 loss to Leicester City, a 4-1 win away at Stamford Bridge against Chelsea. Wow, my word, what a game that was for those who watched it. Brentford, again, coming back home, getting a 2-0 win over West Ham. Not an easy game to play, not an easy opponent to play against. Getting another win yet again away at Vicarage Road against Watford. By a score of 2-1 and a 0-0 draw at home to Tottenham. Scores and ratings for Brentford and Thomas Frank, and players that have stood out to both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, Brentford are one of the most informed teams in the league right now. I'd probably give both the coach and the team about an 8. Even those games that we just read off, they've lost 1 out of those 7 that we listed off. So Brentford are in really good form. Probably, I would argue, the best form of their season so far. Obviously that Chelsea one was really impressive, and I saw some stat that was like, it was on NBC, and it was something like they haven't lost a game and where both Erickson and some other player has started. Erickson in that role above the double pivot is just creating for them left and right.
He's been phenomenal, and especially just touching on Christian Erickson. I mean, how great is that, especially for you to see, knowing and seeing and watching for years what this man is capable of doing, and the technical and footballing ability and the footballing IQ and intelligence that this man has.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I think it might have been lagging a bit. Yeah, I would say Erickson seems to be even better after his break from football. I mean, as tragic as it was, he seems to have come back with this new spirit for the game, and it's been excellent for Brentford FC. Yeah, so Brentford doing really good. And that's it. Yeah, one of the most informed teams in the league. I honestly had to see that they were the most informed teams in the league.
Definitely.
After the 0-0 draw with Tottenham, I had to tell myself that they were doing okay. So
Definitely. And what score did you give Brentford and Thomas Frank, just to recall?
yeah, I give them an 8.
Fair enough.
An 8. Yeah.
And is there any player that you'd say isn't really in great form at the moment, or not really, would you say?
Sorry, I'm lagging. What was the question?
Would you say that there perhaps is a player in that Brentford squad that just isn't really in the best of form, or would you say it's not too concerning?
No, the team is moving at a momentum as a unit right now. There's no one to pick out. It'd be nitpicking to do that. They're on a great run of form. That's it.
Fair enough. Next, of course, Sears, going back to you, and we're going to Brighton. Losing 2-1 to Newcastle, losing 2-0 to Liverpool, losing 2-0 again to Tottenham, drawing Norwich at home, 0-0. A win, of course, against Arsenal by 2-1. A win against Tottenham by 1-0. The new owner of North London, Brighton, losing by 2-0 against Manchester City, and a 2-2 draw against Southampton. Serious scores and ratings for Brighton and Graham Potter, and players who stood out to you both in good form and in not so great form.
Yeah, honestly, like it's a hard schedule that Brighton has had. It's pretty impressive. They beat both North London teams, and then they lost to Tottenham, got revenge, won. So, by the way, shout out to Danny Welbeck. I think he scored last game or the game before. I always look when he scores.
He's been in all right form, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he's been all right, and I think the player that stood out the most, I think Trossard. He scored against both Arsenal and scored the winner against Tottenham. Been impressive recently. Yeah, I think he has like 6 goals this season. So I mean, I guess coming to form now. I think Duffy's also been decent. He got himself a goal too. Sorry. It's a hard schedule, so I'd have to give Brighton and Graham Potter, I think a 6.57. Like I know they did lose some games, 3-0 against Man City, but I don't think we expect them to do anything against Man City. I think them winning against the two, well, I was gonna say 2 big North London teams, the one big North London team. I think it's impressive. So yeah.
Fair enough. And of course, lastly, have to ask Neil Mopai, how is he rating? What are you saying?
Oh, recently, not that much, but I just always think about him in that one Leno moment. But so he can taste my nan.
And of course, hypothetical, what would you do if of course you see tomorrow, you see a free contract agreement, Neil Mopai, 8-year contract, captain's armband, and the starting number 9 for Arsenal Football Club? What would you do?
Well, number 1, I'd do Joe. Number 2, I would leave Arsenal and support Barca.
Of course, Premier League Pound Time does not warrant some of the comments made by Sirius as a disclaimer. Next, of course, Andre, coming back to you, Burnley. And there are definitely some things to talk about Burnley, but before that, of course, we will get into the usual. Looking at their run of games, losing to Leicester by 2-0, also losing to Chelsea, also losing to Brentford, Manchester City, beating Everton by a slim scoreline of 3-2. That was actually a great game to watch. That was a wild game. Very, very entertaining, wildly entertaining. Losing again to Norwich by 2-0. And then that game marks something very significant. Sean Dyche, the longtime manager of Burnley, was sacked after that game. interim Mike Jackson came in, and in the running games and in the 3 games that he has had out of 9 possible points that he could pick up, he's picked up 7 out of 9 with a draw against West Ham, a win against Southampton, and a win against Wolves. First, we'll say scores and ratings for Sean Dyche Burnley, and then we'll do a score for Mike Jackson over these 3 games. Andre, we'll start with that.
All right, fair enough way to do it. Yeah, there's definitely a lot to talk about with Burnley that we should get into as a group, not just me.
100%.
Yeah, Dyche's Burnley was, struggling very heavily. It seemed like, I think they only had some 3 wins with Dyche the entire season, and then now with that run of games with all losses, bad losses too, losses where they weren't scoring any goals. Yeah, that's probably the worst that Dyche's Burnley gets. So I'd have to give Dyche's Burnley a 2. It's pretty dreadful.
Of course.
In Dave I's words. As opposed to the new man, Mike Jackson, I wouldn't say that there's anything too notably different in the styles of play. However,
that was actually going to be one of the questions I was going to ask later, actually.
Nice. Perfect. But I will say that there seems to be a new energy to the side in the way that they're moving forward. And sometimes that's just what you need after, a decade of Dyche. It might have not been Dyche struggling to perform as a manager, but it was more just sometimes you just need fresh blood, so a new kick just to get what was so good about what Dyche has laid out over the past decade and what he's done for the football club.
What would you give Mike Jackson for these 3 games?
I think I'd give him, he's undefeated, so I'll give him a 7.
Fair enough. And lastly, before we get into the questions that I'll just ask everyone, players that have stood out to you, Andre, in both good form and not so great form.
One player who has impressed me that I don't think I've not only ever talked about on the show, I don't think I've talked about him ever in any conversation about the Premier League is Burnley's midfielder. It's Burnley's midfielder, Jack Cork, I believe is his first name. Jack Cork.
I don't think Jose once in all the times he has analyzed Burnley. I don't think he's once talked about Jack Cork. What's impressive about Jack Cork? That's a really interesting one, actually.
Since the injury of Ben Mee, I've watched 2 of their games, 2 of the 3 Mike Jackson games. Since the injury of Ben Mee, who's a gargantuan player for them. He's Burnley FC's. That's the man. Cork has stepped up in a lot of ways. He's sort of leading that midfield press and breaking teams down. He's very aggressive, but he's also competent. He's almost scary on the field for them. It's this is when I think of I wish he would have played for peak Burnley a couple of years. Maybe he did. He wasn't in peak form for sure, but peak Burnley as a few years ago. I think of Jack Cork. He's been tenacious in that midfield. He's been impressive.
And is there a player that hasn't really stood out to you, not in the greatest form? I know there's probably several, but maybe 1 or 2.
One that is disappointing. I don't think he's been that great. Is Cornet. I know that he's gone through a lot of position switching, but he's been
injuries as well.
Yeah, he's not been as threatening as he once was. Not too long ago. So I would say he's let off a bit.
100%. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And now just things I just want to ask you all in general. Jose, I'll start with you. What are your thoughts on Sean Dyche's sacking? Sacked with 8 games left of the season, 3 of them have been played. Do you think Burnley will survive the drop? And yes or no? And who do you think would be an ideal or logical replacement for Sean Dyche? Do you think it could be Mike Jackson taking the job permanently, or do you think Burnley will go out there and look for a new man to come in?
Well, I think his sacking. I definitely disagree with the sacking. I think he did such a good job that to sack him at this point, I don't think it's going to do anything. I think that whether or not they go down is in Everton's hands, not theirs. I think that they're just gonna go up and down for the rest of the season. And if Everton can collect their form for the next few games, then they can go up. But if not, I think Burnley are gonna go down. Um, for who they should get, I don't know. I'm not sure if they should stick to their defensive style, or whether they should go out and get someone who'd be more attacking. I really liked when Ben Mee was gonna take over, and Ben Mee was gonna be their player manager. I would like to see that.
I think everyone would like to see that 100%. Ben Mee as player manager. Sirius, what about you? What are your thoughts on Sean Dyche's sacking? Do you think Burnley could survive the drop? And who do you think will, could or would be an ideological or just a realistic replacement for Sean Dyche?
Yeah, I don't think I agree with it either. I think Joe's right. He has done a lot of good things for Burnley. I remember a couple of years ago they were doing pretty good. Despite him playing absolutely atrocious and ugly football, it worked a lot of the time. And I think now isn't the right time. I also think that they're going to get relegated. I cannot see Everton being in the championship. It's just too weird. I don't see it. So yeah.
100%, definitely. And wait, who did you say would be, just to recall, who did you say could be an ideological replacement for?
Oh, sorry. I kind of want to see Benny too as a player manager. We've seen player managers before. Like I think Giggs.
Yeah.
And Giggs is such a great lad. So anyways, yeah.
Yeah, we'll leave that one open ended. And Andre, of course, coming back to you, what are your thoughts on his sacking? Do you think they'll survive the drop? And who do you think could be an ideological replacement for Sean Dyche?
Yeah, I was initially shocked and like pretty sad when I saw Dyche was leaving, and it made me not. I think I sent a message to you guys saying I don't care about Burnley anymore. I don't want to root for them like that. That's that's messed up. I don't know. I like that. I liked having Dyche in the league. I did. Anyway, I do think going off of form right now, I think Burnley are going to edge out Everton. I think Burnley are going to survive the drop, and Everton will go down, and the entire league will feel for those fans because they have been through a roller coaster, those Everton fans. In terms of their coach, I do have a few thoughts. I think it'd be really cool if like maybe we saw Ole Gunnar Solskjaer at Brentford.
That was actually one of the thinking in the back of my mind.
No, I don't.
Thoughts on that. It was a quick thoughts on that. Do you think Ole would actually suit the way Burnley play? I mean, to be honest with you, with these world class and advanced tactics that we've seen from him, his style of play actually suits exactly how Burnley play. To sit back and just counterattack.
No, they're different. I think I couldn't. No way I'd ever see Ole at Burnley, but I do think it is likely if we don't get player manager Ben Mee. If we don't get player manager Ben Mee, which probably I just want to see that just because that's exciting and new in the Premier League to me at least. I think it is plausible like Burnley are gonna find some like former English player that is in management that none of us have thought about in years.
I feel like Ole Gunnar Solskjaer would actually be like somewhat of like a realistic target. I don't know why.
I saw a link. I don't know if it's true. I saw a link to Nuno Espirito Santo too, and that's for sure would fit. But yeah, I think we're both just dumb placing our own.
Maybe a cheeky Sam Allardyce could come in.
That could be cool.
I think a cheeky Sam Allardyce should have gone to Everton.
Yeah.
You know who I think should be at Everton if Everton go down and Lampard gets the sack, you know, would be perfect. Sean Dyche.
Oh, that would be cool.
I think it'd be perfect. I think
that actually would be pretty cool. I could imagine if Richarlison is somehow at Everton next year, just Richarlison doing his flopping that he usually does, and just Sean Dyche just grabbing all of them and just saying, yo, fix up right now or you're dropped, you're out of the squad. That would actually be crazy.
I mean, that's arguably what you may need at Everton right now. That club is desperate for structure, and Dyche, what he's done with Burnley, he could absolutely be the man. I absolutely see it happening. I'm calling it now.
100%. And last question on Burnley, just a quick fire question around you. Looking at Dyche and Jackson, and just looking at Jackson these past 3 games, have you noticed any sort of difference in style of play, team selection, philosophy, tactics, any difference? And if so, what have you noticed looks different in anything? between Dyche and Jackson? And this is just open-ended for any of you lot to come in.
It just seems more energetic to me. It doesn't look very different to me.
Fair enough.
That's it.
Jose, serious, what are you saying?
I mean, for me, I think the difference is in some of the people who are scoring goals and some of the people who are helping out at the back. I think when under Dyche, we'd see very consistently either the big striker scoring the goals or the little winger playing striker scoring the goals, or Tarkovsky coming in with the goals. But now we're seeing different players, younger players who are coming in for the very first time getting goals, which I like.
Definitely. Serious, what about you?
I will agree with everything Joe just said.
I gotta fancy Sirius's amazing attentiveness to that question. Switching to Jose, and of course, I know Andre's probably very disappointed about who's next. Chelsea, of course, Chelsea going to Burnley and winning by 4-0, then winning 3-1 away at Norwich, then winning at home against Newcastle by 0-0, losing 4-1 at home to Brentford, winning against Southampton in an emphatic 6-0 win, losing to Arsenal by 4-2 at home, and just edging out West Ham by 0-0 through Christian Pulisic's late time heroics. Scores for Chelsea and Andre's favorite ever manager and his dream manager for Tottenham Hotspur, Thomas Tuchel, and players that have stood out to you in both good and not so great form.
Yeah, I'd say it's been strange for Chelsea. I think that both of the games they lost were games that they could easily have won. I think they were very sloppy defensively in both of those games.
The Real Madrid games in the Champions League.
Don't get me started on that. They were so bad. They were so bad against Real Madrid, especially in the first leg.
It was awful.
But anyway, I would probably give them a 5 just because of how poor I think those losses were. In terms of players who stood out to me, I definitely say I think Kai Havertz has made the striker position his own, and he's looked really good. He's won them a lot of points.
When you look at that Chelsea attack, and I was talking to one of my mates today, and we were talking about Chelsea, and one thing and something that he told me is that when he looks at that Chelsea attack, the only player that in his opinion that for him guarantees a starting spot in that Chelsea front three, will guarantee it week in, week out. First name on the team sheet is Kai Havertz. And
yeah, absolutely.
Timo Werner's another one. You have to give him credit as well. He's been in very good form.
Yeah, in the past 2 games, he's come to life a little bit. He's had a little help though I remember a cheeky deflection giving him a bit of help in one of those games. But anyways, I think I was gonna say Kai Havertz is one, and then I also thought Mason Mount has really stepped it up in the past few games as well. I think he's got some great numbers this season. I think it's like something like 18 goal contributions in the Premier League this season or something like that, which 100%. I think is really good.
He's also got some great hairstyles as well.
Oh yeah, of course he does. And then the one player I was going to point out who just particularly in the losses really stood out to me as not being in the best of form was Azpilicueta. I think that every time Azpilicueta was dropped, a good performance followed, and every time he was in the team, it was a lot of goals. 4 goals in each game that they conceded.
Fair enough. So what's your score for Chelsea and Thomas Tuchel?
Yeah, 5 out of 10.
And lastly, before we move on to Crystal Palace, one thing I do want to say, Fabrizio Romano more or less gave the here we go. And being a Madrid yourself, thoughts on Antonio Rudiger to Real Madrid? Are you happy with it? What are your thoughts on it? What do you think he'll bring to the table?
I mean, I like it because it's a Tiki Florentino free deal, which I like. I always fancy. But I mean, the thing about Rudiger is I think he's good. I don't know if he's good enough to be the player we need. I feel like we need. The thing about Alaba and Militao is they work well together and they're a good defense, but I feel like we just need one like really world-class center back to lead our defense, kind of like Ramos did for so long. I don't think we have that. That's why we saw a lot of sloppy goals today conceded against Man City, which was angering. But anyways, I think that Rudiger is a good player, and I think that he'll do well in Madrid. But I feel like we need someone better, to be honest.
100%. Fair enough. Next, we're going to go into Crystal Palace series coming over to you, looking at their fixtures, winning 2-0 away against Wolves, drawing 0-0 against Manchester City, winning 3-0 at home to yours truly, Arsenal, losing 2-1 to Leicester, losing 1-0 to Newcastle, and drawing 0-0 with Leeds. Scores and ratings for Crystal Palace and Patrick Vieira, and players that have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, I think it was a really good result for Crystal Palace against us. Disappointing for us for sure. I think Crystal Palace's defense hasn't really been the main issue. I think that they haven't conceded that many in the last couple of games. They lost, 2 against Leicester was the most. So I don't think it's been the defense's issue. Zaha has scored 2 in the last couple of games, but I don't know. They both been penalties. I feel like he needs to do more. I think his attitude's not good. I think I mentioned this before. He's maybe picked it up a little bit scoring those 2 penalties, but I think he can do more. I think his name is Mateta. I don't know if I'm saying it right.
Jean-Philippe Mateta. He's been in great form.
Yeah, he's been in really good form. I noticed that against us, he was pretty good. So overall, I think Crystal Palace deserves and Patrick Vieira. I think they deserve like a 6-7. I think that win against us is so, dominant that I have to give them that.
Fair enough. Any players in your opinion that just aren't looking like they're in great form?
No, I mean, not really. I think someone who I wouldn't say bad form, but someone who I thought would be so much better is Nathaniel Klein. Just his overall potential. I feel like when he was at Southampton, I don't know if you guys remember him at Southampton.
Yeah, I do.
He was, I wouldn't say a top prospect, but he was a young prospect. I'm not saying he's doing bad or anything, but I think he just could have been so much better.
Fair enough. Yep, I do make a fair point there. And now next into another side that does require lots to talk about as well. Oh, wait, before I move on to Everton, serious, last question for you. In that 3-0 thrashing by Crystal Palace, how surprised were you to see that Christian Benteke didn't score one of the goals?
I know. I was at least happy about that. For some reason, the last 2-3 seasons, he will not score a goal all season. And then against us, he turns into prime, like Ronaldo. It's crazy. I watched him score a live goal against us too, which is even worse. Disgusting.
What if in addition to Mopai, Arteta brings in cheeky Christian Benteke as a backup? What would you do?
Well, I think that Arteta would be fired because that would be moronic.
Fair enough. Next, of course, we're going into Everton and taking a look at their fixtures, losing 5-0 to Tottenham, 1-0 to Wolves, edging out Newcastle by a 0-0, losing 2-1 to West Ham, losing 3-2 to Burnley. Surprise, surprise, their other win comes against Manchester United, 1-0 at home, a draw against Leicester, and a 2-0 loss to Liverpool. We'll start off scores and ratings for Everton and Frank Lampard, and players that have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, it's been very, very inconsistent and honestly very poor. I think that I really haven't liked Lampard. I don't think he's doing a good job at all. I think that he's very inconsistent, and that's the opposite of what you need when you're trying to get out of a relegation battle. I'd probably give them a 2 or 3, only because they beat us somehow. Players that have stood out, I'd probably say
it's not that hard though.
No, it is not, but whatever.
I give them the extra 3 for winding up a certain player for smashing his phone. So would you give him the extra point for that?
Yeah, I might. Yeah,
fair enough.
Maybe you could say 4. Anyways, I'll say players that have stood out. I'd liked Anthony Gordon a lot. I think that it was a debatable penalty, the one that wasn't called against Liverpool. I don't know if you guys saw that one. But I think he was their most threatening player in that game. I think Richarlison has finally started to find his form. He's getting goals and assists in the past few games. I think he had like 5 or 6 goals and assists in the past few games, which is pretty impressive considering how poor he was earlier in the season. In terms of who is not playing well, a lot of people in that defense. Seamus Coleman looks past it. Michael Keane looks past it.
Michael Keane. I've said it many times. He's Everton's Maguire, except
he is. I think that's a good way to say it. Yeah, I'd probably leave it there.
100%, fair enough. And in terms of just the questions I have, I actually think one only needs to be asked because the first one I think was covered ages ago. But when you look at Everton, right, what do you think the main underlying problems are at that club? It's the manager, because they've gone through two already, I'm not counting Duncan Ferguson. They're now on their second permanent manager. Is it players simply not performing, not trying, not putting effort? Is it the owners? And this is just a question for everyone. And Andre, I'll start with you. What do you think just the main underlying problems are at Everton Football Club right now?
I just don't think they have direction. I think the club needs structure. You look at their targets over the last few years, and I think their most exciting time was when they had Ancelotti, right? They signed Alan
In the beginning of the year.
from Italy. I mean,
On the show first.
they signed Doucouré. That's when the club seemed to have direction, and you were thinking, oh, Everton's going to have European football in 2-3 years. But all that has just completely fallen apart. They look, I mean, on form, they may be the worst team in the league. I mean, they're performing that horribly.
I'd probably stay up there with Norwich and Manchester United, definitely.
Yeah, I'd say Lampard. Sometimes it seems to me that behind the scenes, sometimes it can be a bit disorganized with him. He's still a young manager. I'm rooting for him, though. I'm hoping he gathers teams together, and I'm hoping Dele Alli scores the hat trick to keep them up in the league. That's what I'm hoping happens.
And so then Tottenham can get, their 40 million in bonuses. How Everton agreed to pay an extra 40 million to Tottenham for like player bonuses for Dele Alli. I'll never understand that.
But here's the thing, though. There were a few clauses on that, and I think one of them was he has to get 10 appearances. I'm not sure he has that right now, so we may not even get any of the fee.
100%. And just also throwing out this question to the others, Jose, what do you think the main underlying problems are at Everton? Do you agree with Andre?
I mean, I agree with what Andre said, but I also think that their defense is washed. And I think that they're all older, and I think they're all slow. I think that they lost Luka
Michael Keane's pretty quick. Yeah, I mean, you got Yeti Mina for if you need some some dance music, you have Yeti Mina in there.
Of course. You mean they got rid of Digne, who I think was a really big part of their attack. Actually, I just think that they're really well set up to, if they can get like some kind of pacey, powerful young defender. I think that if they play him, and then they like their new defender, and then they play the rest of their team. I think if they play a 5-back, and then they have Richarlison and who's the other one, Calvert-Lewin up front. I think that they're really well suited to play some typical Diego Simeone football and just play really well on defense, and then hit teams on the counterattack. I think that they play really well that way, but I think Lampard would never do that because I think he's very interested in playing attractive looking football.
Fair enough.
And
they do have someone that could fit that profile. Do you think someone like Mason Holgate or Ben Godfrey could fit that description? You're saying young, pacey, powerful defender, or do you think that they don't really have what your criteria is of the defender you're talking about?
I mean, if you'd asked me a few years ago, I might have told you that Mason Holgate can do that. Nowadays, I'm not so confident. Ben Godfrey, I mean, maybe there's still a chance. I don't know. I really haven't been impressed with any of their defenders this season.
Fair enough. Sirius, what about you? What's your thoughts on this?
Dave, I just like Joe goes through many women. Everton have gone through many managers, and I think that once you change the managers and it's still not working, I think it's down to the players. I think sorry. I think that they've had like many defenders, especially, and overall players who had the potential. Like I remember the hype around Michael Keane, coming from Burnley. I remember the hype.
Oh yeah, there was hype around Michael Keane. Believe it or not.
Also talking about Seamus Coleman. I think he's also past his days. Joe's right. I remember watching him like when he was young as a kid, and he was good. But it's time to move on for some things. I also am. I want Lampard to do well. I don't think he's a bad manager at all. I don't think it's maybe some things are down to him, but I don't think everything is. I think it's a lot to do with the players, and I think that they're gonna have to spend. I wouldn't say big, but they need to do something, because especially if they stay in the Premier League, which I think they will, but they're gonna have to do something different for sure, especially with their defense.
100%. And also, Premier League Primetime does not condone the comments mentioned there. As a disclaimer. Next, Andre.
Also, wait, yeah, real quick. I think it's a bit surreal to think, you think a season ago when Ancelotti was at Everton,
Yeah.
and Hodgson was at Palace, and you say, where will these teams be in a year today? And you told one of them was fighting relegation.
That's a very interesting point. That's a very interesting point to say.
Yeah, it's just, you really see how fast football moves. I mean, these teams' trajectories have just gone. It's crazy.
The potential levels they've swapped, and that's such an intelligent thing to point out. You look at their managers last year, and you look at their managers this year, and you look at the positions that they were last season and this season. It's unbelievably surreal to see it. The next, Andre, sticking with you in Leeds, taking a look at Leeds now. Losing to Leicester by 1-0, losing to Aston Villa by 3-0, defeating Norwich by 2-1, beating Wolves by a score of 3-2. That was another very entertaining game. Coming back from being 2-0 down, drawing Southampton at home, a 3-0 win against Watford, and a 0-0 draw against Crystal Palace. Scores and reigns for Leeds and Jesse Marsch, and players that have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah. It's so far it's played out that sacking Bielsa has looked like the right move. They went from half of a Premier League side, seriously, to now they're building something under Jesse Marsch. They're surviving. I think they're undefeated against them when I think about it. Yeah, our Americans doing well with Leeds United. I think one player that I would say that has seriously shown like a lot of resilience and has impressed me a lot since the appointment of Jesse Marsch is Luke Ayling for Leeds United. If Leeds what are you kidding? He's led that team. You watch their games against even that really exciting match against Wolves. He was the one that had the intelligence, the peace of mind.
Fair enough. Yeah.
For that ball for the third goal. In their derby against Palace on the past weekend, I've never seen a player like I just want to be clear. Ayling pocketed Zaha like I've never seen.
Andre's coming out with a lot of very interesting player points. And it's not that I don't believe you with Luke Ayling. It's again just another. No, I wouldn't necessarily say strange or peculiar in a negative sense. Just a very unusual player just to pick out. I don't think the normal person will pick out Jack Cork. I don't think.
No way. That was
pick out Luke Ayling. It's just another. But you make a very good point there.
Jack Cork is a crazy one. Luke Ayling, if you've watched their past few games, he's been a huge figure for them. He's everywhere. He's not strictly playing fullback.
Like an unsung hero? Would you say he's an unsung
100%. I think he's sung around Leeds, but around the league for sure. You watch their games. He's a free roam fullback. He's not like nailed down to that area. That guy is everywhere. And yeah, I'm telling you, the way he pocketed Zaha was. I mean, yeah, I haven't seen something like that in a while. So yeah, Ayling has been seriously leading Leeds to great stuff. That was a weird sentence, but yeah.
Definitely. And what was the score that you gave Leeds and Jesse Marsch?
Since Jesse Marsch appointment, I'll give them a 7. They're doing really well.
Fair enough. And did you happen to mention a player that hasn't been in the greatest form, or did you do that already?
No, I don't think any of their players have been in that bad a form. I think since they're out, like Melier has been good.
Fair enough.
I think their pivot has looked better. Oh, let's talk about that though. Since also to Jesse Marsch, the first thing Marsch did was pivot to a 4-2-3-1, and that seemed to have revitalized the sort of passing triangles that Leeds are good at. And that was the biggest tactical switch that I've seen. They've swapped who's leading the line. I know Daniel James, your man, has led the line a couple of times.
Fair enough, 100%. Yeah, fair enough. And another question just to throw out to everybody. Jose, I'll just shift to you. Have you noticed any difference in the style of play or team selection, tactics, philosophy between Marcelo Bielsa and Jesse Marsch? If so, like just from watching Leeds, from your own eyes, and from what you've seen from Leeds under Bielsa and Leeds under Jesse Marsch this season, what do you think has changed? What do you feel looks different?
I think the obvious answer is the stupid, ignorant attacking that Bielsa did. That it was so beautiful to watch, of course, but that was so detrimental, I think, to them conceding so many goals. So I think that's just the basic answer that I have.
Fair enough. No. It's an obvious answer, but it's also an answer that's not wrong at all and a very good point. Sirius, what about you?
Yeah, actually, not actually what copying was just that I was listening this time. I actually agree because that is true. Like while they were so entertaining to watch, the defensive liabilities come to play. You know, sometimes as Sean Dyche used to do with Burnley a couple years ago, and Simeone does, playing like playing bad football sometimes wins you games.
Fair enough. And on Andre, what about you?
Yeah, I said my thing. There's the obvious formation switch was it, but yeah, they look a more disciplined side, which is surprising to see from an American.
Fair enough. And next, Sirius, shifting over to you into Leicester, looking at their running games, winning 2-0 away against Burnley, wins against Leeds, a loss against Arsenal, a win against Brentford, a draw against Manchester United at Old Trafford, a win against Crystal Palace, a loss against Newcastle, and draws against Everton and Aston Villa. Scores and ratings for Andre's second favorite manager in the Premier League and second dream manager of Tottenham Hotspur, Brendan Rodgers, and Leicester, and players have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, it's been some, on and off results for sure. I think what Leicester are missing is there goes Andre.
Yep. I was about to say.
Their leading goal scorer, Jamie Vardy. I think that's a big blow. I think, for so many years he's been their main man. I think that Iheanacho is a decent player with potential, but, he hasn't been great this season. He has 3 goals in the Premier League, I think. I think that's correct. I think that if you look at Leicester's recent scores, some of their issues are, scoring. I think players that have been also good, I'd say Harvey Barnes, he's been decent. He always is decent. Don't forget that. Tillman's not talking about recently, just overall in the whole season. Such an important player for them.
There he is.
Oh, there he is.
He's back.
But yeah, I think I give Leicester 6. They had some good wins. I think that they could have done better in some games, especially in teams like Everton, which are kind of struggling. Aston Villa, but you see, it's like 0-0-0-0. They need Vardy back for sure. But yeah,
100%. And just a quick fire question to everyone, just like a quick yes or no question. Looking at that, they have the Conference League. They're in the semifinals of the Conference League. Do you think they're going to put more emphasis and focus into the Conference League for a chance to play in the Europa League next year, or do you think they'll still put an equal amount of attention into both the Premier League and the Conference League? And do you think that they could win the Conference League? Just simple, like yes, no. Sirius, starting with you.
Sorry, I was muted. I think they can. You said, do you think they'll win the Conference League?
Do you think that they could win the Conference League? Do you think that will be their main focus, seeing that they win that, they clinch Europa League football for next season?
Yeah, I think it is. Conference Leagues, we make fun of it, but I think it is. I think that should be their main priority. I think
they play Roma in the semifinals. Jose Mourinho.
I know. But I think they could win. I don't think that's an impossible feat unless Sexy Giroud puts a masterclass. I think they have a chance for sure.
Giroud plays for Milan.
Giroud plays for AC Milan. Serious.
You mean Tammy Abraham?
Yeah, it's my bad. Wrong Chelsea, wrong former Chelsea player. I pulled an Alex right now.
Jose, what are you saying?
I don't know. I want Mourinho to win. I like his Roma team, and I hope he does well. But I think they have a real chance of winning it, though. Leicester.
But then again, you look at their manager. I wouldn't be fully confident of that.
That's true.
And Andre, of course, coming back to you, do you think Leicester could win the Europa Conference League, or do you think your favorite manager and your second choice dream manager of Tottenham Hotspur will do the usual?
All right. I don't have my camera on because I'm not sure about my internet, but yeah, I think it's never a great idea to put all your efforts into like a knockout competition like that to try to salvage your next season. But Leicester should definitely do it. I think they should. They're in a pointless place in the Prem. They're not really competing for all that much. I think they will mainly focus their efforts towards the Conference League. It'd be exciting for them. It's exactly the type of competition that they can bring a trophy home for. So yeah, I think they will pivot their attention towards that, and I think they can maybe do it. I don't know.
Fair enough. Next, we'll go right into Liverpool, and of course, Jose. Of course, Liverpool. This club just gets better and better every time we go back and take a look at them. They have won every single match, and they wins against West Ham, Brighton, Arsenal, Watford. The only team they didn't win against was against Manchester City, a draw, a 4-0 thrashing of Manchester United. Surprise, surprise. It's not like someone predicted that. 2 weekends ago, and a win in the Merseyside derby against Everton. Scores and ratings for Jurgen Klopp. Players that have stood out to you, negative and in good form, not so great form. And do you think Liverpool could win the quadruple, as so many people are asking?
Well, I think that I'd have to give them a 9 out of 10, just because they didn't beat Man City. But I think that they've played pretty much perfect football other than that game. I think they haven't conceded any goals. All their defenders are in form, every single one. Like even the ones that are sitting on the bench. I think that Jota has been excellent consistently in all of these games. Salah, of course, had a field day against us as always. Who else was I going to say? Thiago has come into his form. I think he's looking almost back to his best, like he was looking at Bayern.
He was phenomenal against Manchester United.
Yeah, whether they can win the quadruple, I mean, we know how big of a job that is. It's only ever been done once. Well, it hasn't been done, but the treble's only ever been won once for a reason. It's really, really hard, especially in the Premier League. They could. I mean, I have them winning the Champions League. I don't see anyone stopping them in that league. In there, I think that they're better than Real Madrid. They're better than Man City. Obviously, they're better than Villarreal.
Hey, never know. Don't see Villarreal get slept on.
No, I definitely not underestimating Villarreal. I actually had them beating Bayern, and I had them beating Juventus.
Really?
So I did. But anyways,
I did predict they beat Juventus, not Bayern Munich. I thought surely not.
That's beside the point. My prediction skills are beside the point. I like how good Liverpool are right now. As much as I don't really like it as a Man U fan, I think that they're a really good team to watch. So
100%. Yeah, you do make a fair point. One player I do want to throw in, a player that whenever you hear me talk about him, I do have a lot of criticism for him, but Sadio Mane, he's coming to life as of recent. He's
scoring really important goals.
He's been very, very good. Andre, over to you. Manchester City, and now Manchester City have been perfect. A win against Manchester United, a draw against Palace, and then a win against Burnley, a draw against Liverpool, and then wins against Brighton and Watford. That Wolves game got postponed. Andre, scores and ratings for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola, and players that have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, I'll try to keep it brief. Yeah, I'd give them a 9 also. This title race is looking to it's going to be crazy. It's going to be within 1 or 2 points for sure. But City are definitely staking their claim. They're not slowing down. I know they had the draw against Palace, but Palace did their job.
Fair enough.
Played their heart out. But yeah, City are finding goals from everywhere. Their attacking players are all feeding off each other really nicely. I hope they can keep that consistency in the league, as well as the European competition, which I think they will. I don't think they'll slow down. They have enough depth not to. Yeah,
Fair enough.
perfect city, really.
Fair enough. Players have stood out to you, both in good form, not so great form.
I guess good form. I think now at this end spell of the season, I feel like we're seeing like the real De Bruyne kick in. I think it wasn't his best season, to be honest. I don't think I put him in the PFA team of the year, but he's showing his quality now. And that midfield for them is just, it's seriously immense. It feels like they have the best midfielder or the best midfield options of any team in the world right now.
Fair enough. I'd also throw
Yeah.
Raheem Sterling in there. He's been in phenomenal form, I'd say. Yeah, I think people forget how good of a player he is, and people forget his contributions. He's 26. I think he's 26, and he has over 100 goals, 100 Premier League goals as a winger. That's quite impressive. I think people forget, that with Lexi, he's leaving this league right now, and how well he has been, how good of a player he's been for Manchester City. Moving into just a club that just has given me depression, not just this month, not just the past 6 months, just this whole season. Manchester United, this club just, they amplify my depression every time I watch them play. Jose, what are we going to do at this side? Losing 4-1 against Manchester City, narrowly beating Tottenham by 3-2, a draw at home against Leicester, a loss against Everton, a narrow 3-2 win against Norwich, a 4-0 thrashing by Liverpool, and a 3-1 loss to Arsenal. First off, before I just go around and just throw out some questions to all you lot, scores and ratings for Manchester United and Ralph Rangnick. I'm pretty sure I know where that one's going, and players that have stood out to you both in good form and in not so great form. And I'm pretty sure, like when you analyze Burnley, I'm pretty sure I know what you're going to say for this one as well.
Yep. I think Ronaldo and De Gea are in form. Everyone else can suck a fat one, to be honest. I think that
I'd also say Sancho and Elanga. I'd throw those two in there just to give them.
Not even Sancho in the last few games, honestly. I think Sancho, like, he had one good moment against Arsenal, and then that was it. I think Sancho's been one of our better players this season, definitely, but not in the last few games. He's gone missing.
Question mark.
Elanga, I don't know. I've never really liked Elanga, to be honest. I think he's like, I was happy with his goal against Atleti, but I don't really see it. I don't see what he has. I see him as a guy who's fast, but then I don't see him. I see him wasting chances. I see him getting too close to the goalkeeper, and the goalkeeper just coming out and grabbing it. I see him missing chances and not really providing, not being that great of a dribbler either. So I don't know. I'm not convinced on Elanga yet. But anyways, I think De Gea has been absolutely excellent. Best goalkeeper in the Premier League this season by far. I think that Ronaldo has carried us even though we're in shit form. I think that he was
We've been dreadful all season. We've been dreadful all season.
Yeah, we have. But I think he single-handedly got us 3 points in 2 of these games. And he somehow managed to get a goal against Arsenal as well, which I thought was pretty impressive. Otherwise, everyone's in shit form.
And what would your score, sir?
2 out of 10. 2 out of 10.
I give them a 1, to be honest with you, if you ask me. And in terms of players that are in form, I'd probably say the same. I'd give Jadon Sancho and Anthony Elanga saving grace, a little bit of saving grace at least, just because they have their youngsters coming to the league for the first time. Sancho obviously having more expectations than Elanga, but Elanga, just looking at what Elanga is playing with right now, and you're seeing just what's happening to him as a player. You could see he's trying his absolute best to grab games by the scruff of the neck. Of course, he's a youngster. He's not going to be able to do that every game, but that's why he's been able to watch and learn from people like Cristiano Ronaldo and even Edinson Cavani, and just learning from experience and by being around them and training with them, just being around them every day. And now, just to throw out questions at everyone, Jose, I'll start with you. This Manchester United side is just an absolute shambles, but a little bit of positivity came in. Erickson, Hogg, the new manager of Manchester United, come next season. What do you think he will bring to Manchester United? And just going off of that, what players do you think Ten Hag should sell? What players do you think he should keep? Just to name a few.
To sell all of the dead wood, there's a lot of it. Mata, Jones.
I think he's going on a free.
Yeah.
Is going on a free. Nemanja Matic, Jesse Lingard, Paul Pogba, Edinson Cavani, Lee Grant, and Juan. That's all of them are leaving on a free.
All of them should go, and they are, which is good. Otherwise, I mean, who else? Tellez is shit. McGuire is shit.
Well, I think he's just number one on the transfer list. I think for anyone.
I don't even think Lindelof is that good, but maybe next to someone better, he'll be okay. I don't know. I almost want to say Shaw, but I kind of want to give him another chance.
Fair enough.
I don't like Wan-Bissaka anymore. I've lost interest in him. I like Dalot still. He's good.
I'm starting to lose interest in Wan-Bissaka as well. I like Wan-Bissaka, and I'm losing patience with him. I am really starting to get on my nerves, but I want to see what Ten Hag can do with him in terms of just. I want to see, because if you think about it, Wan-Bissaka, his two senior team coaches, they've been Roy Hodgson and Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And they're not the most, amazing attack-minded coaches, are they? And Ralph Ragnick, who's
a lot of people are saying McTominay, but I think under Ten Hag, McTominay can be a player who kind of comes in off the bench, plays in a more attacking role that we know.
I think that's a role he should have had since
because we've seen him score goals from midfield in games before, and they've been nice goals. So I think that under a coach who knows how to coach an attacker, I think that he could be a good player coming off the bench at least.
Fair enough. And Sears, shifting to Sears and Andre, just coming to both of you, what do you think Erik ten Hag can bring to Manchester United? What do you think he will offer or bring to the table that we didn't see? David Moyes, Louis van Gaal, Jose Mourinho, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I'm not counting Michael Carrick and Ralph Rangnick. What do you think he will bring to Manchester United? Sears, starting with you.
Sorry, I was muted. In my video. Yeah. I think that he brings discipline. You've seen this with Ajax youngsters. He knows what he's doing. I think recently it was leaked with Lingard that the dressing room is not great right now. And then I think he'll bring unity, discipline. I think he'll really sure up this Man United locker room, and I think he'll get rid of the deadwood that needs to get rid of. I think he'll do well.
Fair enough. Andre, what about you?
This is for the Ten Hag stuff.
Yes, but what do you think Erik ten Hag can or will bring to Manchester United, in your opinion?
Right. For me, I think the players that have been most exciting at Manchester United for a few years now have been the homegrown talent. And I think Ten Hag is only going to improve that. I wouldn't be surprised if you guys aren't splashing the cash as much in the transfer market and bringing up that homegrown talent, that Alenga stories, Rashford stories, even De Gea stories. I think that's what he's going to bring. I think you guys already have a solid youth academy, and I think now you guys are going to be a really exciting young prospect team, with obviously mixed with some superstars from around the world. That's what I think Ten Hag will bring.
Fair enough. And just a question, a quick fire question to throw out before we shift to Newcastle. Just looking at the season, how awful Manchester United has been. Who do you think is just the person to blame? Do you think it's the players? Do you think it's just the coaches that have been around in charge, Solskjaer and Ralph Rangnick, or specifically looking at right now? We'll say, we'll just put Ole aside. Ralph Rangnick, would you say it's the players? Would you say it's the coaching staff? Would you say it's headphones, aka Chris Armas, who have no idea why he's even at that club in the first place? Who makes me want to cry every time I see him on the touchline with Darren Fletcher. Just a quick fire question to just throw out to all of you. What do you think that the biggest problem is at Manchester United? Who is to blame for these, awful performances on the pitch?
For me, it's having 3 years under Ole, where all the players can consider themselves as bigger than the manager, and they'll play if they want, or they won't play if they don't want. And I think that ego is just kind of what ruined the team in this season.
And you're thinking that these players are also to blame as of now as well.
Yeah, I think it's on the players. I think any player of rational mind, no matter who the manager is, doesn't just go and consider themselves bigger than the manager and like have this awful attitude that so many of our players seem to have this season.
Sirius, what about you? Seems like you're in a frantic hurry.
No, I'm just walking. I think it has to do with a lot of things. You see the captain, Harry Maguire, not living up to standards. You're letting a 37-year-old carry your team. Not me being a Messi fan. He's carrying your team at 37. Which is quite sad. You see multiple acquisitions not working out. I agree with Joe that I don't think Ole was at fault for everything. He let other players become, I would say, like divas basically. And I think that that's the root of things. But yeah.
Andre, what about you?
I think it's the fans. I'd say if there's one man to blame, it'd probably be aspiring sports journalist Davis Rothman. Always going live with the "can't stop, won't stop" and saying random opinions. He says he's a man for the people, but maybe he is, but he's not a man for the club. I think the problem is the fans.
I think he just spreads hate. To be honest, that's what I think.
Yeah, I think.
I, as a host, do not condone these scandalous comments thrown out to me. No, in all realism, Andre, who in your opinion is to blame for this horrendous season? Is it, or just even just the recent, or since Ralph Rangnick's come in, we'll just say that, or do you agree with what Jose and Felix were saying?
I don't know. I think there are just struggles with that you have to cope with being just such a huge club like Manchester United. You're expected to win every game, and with clubs around them getting better and better, they've had such a high demand. They've tried to keep moving forward, but things keep changing. They haven't been on a consistent path for a while. Obviously, they haven't had a consistent manager for more than 3-4 years. So their most successful period came following one man, and that's Sir Alex Ferguson. I think that's just what you need. Hopefully with Rangnick there, he can be the figure that is there for 6-10 years at least, and then the club can start to have some direction again. But yeah, it's just the struggles that you deal with being such a gargantuan club like Manchester United. Everyone's critiquing you at all times.
Definitely. To quickly sum it up before I go to Newcastle, in my opinion, I think it's a combination of everything. I think that the manager is to blame, the players are to blame. I think everyone's to blame, to be honest with you. Next, Sears into Newcastle. Now, a club that was looking that they were down in the dust, in the mud. They are looking to also be one of the most informed teams in the Premier League at the moment, with Brentford, I'd say. Wins against Brighton, Southampton, a loss against Chelsea, a loss against Everton, a 5-1 thumping against Tottenham Hotspur, loss there. But wins against Wolves, Leicester, Crystal Palace, and Norwich. Serious scores and ratings for Newcastle and Eddie Howe. And players have stood out to you, both in good form and bad form. And question to throw out to you, what looks different and under Eddie Howe? Who's to credit for their success? Is it down to Eddie Howe? Is it down to just new looks and new energy? Is it certain players coming in? Well, one could say that. But what do you owe mostly to their recent success? To add on to the two usual questions.
Yeah, I was like I think 9 games they won 6. So pretty good. I think that new acquisition Wood has. I think he has 5 goals, so not bad. Another player who's done more recently is Gumares. I don't know if I pronounced his name right. But yeah, he has a couple goals in the last couple of games. Eddie Howe, I've always liked him at Bournemouth. He brought that Bournemouth side all the way up from, I don't know, League 1, League 2, something like that. So I think he's a good young manager. I think he's part of their success for sure.
Fair enough. And what score are you giving for Eddie Howe Newcastle?
7.58.
Wait, say it again. I think you muffled your mic or something.
7.58.
Got it. Next, Andre Norwich, and scores and ratings for Norwich and Dean Smith. Looking at their games, they've lost every single game except a draw against Brighton, a win against Burnley, and they lost every other game. Losses to Brentford, Chelsea, Leeds, Manchester United, and Newcastle. Scores for Dean Smith and Norwich, and players have stood out to good form and not so great form.
Yeah, if I'm being honest, I'm not sure I've caught much of Dean Smith's Newcastle. Norwich in general, and I don't think I've watched any of those last. I think I've watched one of those last 7 games. I have not kept up with Norwich too much. From what I can tell, it seems like they have a bit of fight in them. Even though it seems like they're going to go down, they're still they seem to enjoy competing in these matches. And really, it seems they just seem to be a team with not good enough individual quality. I think they're all right as a unit and whatnot, but yeah, they're just lacking that individual quality that I'd even say Watford right above them have more of. Are we sure that Norwich really has any player that's as good as someone like Ismail Assar? I'm really not so sure.
But also a few players
so
that have been somewhat impressive. Kieran Dowell scored against Manchester United at Old Trafford. He got the assist for the Pukki goal. Looked okay in the 3-0 loss against Newcastle. Wasn't the worst player. Timo Pukki's always won. Tim Krul's always won. To be reckoned with. Norman's looked okay. Those are just a few players that haven't been great. You could say a whole lot of them. Plaqueta hasn't looked great, to be honest with you. Besiktas been hit or miss. Kind of depends what you're getting. Billy Gilmore's just had a very rough season, but I'd say that's less his fault and more due to other circumstances. But what score would you give Norwich and Dean Smith?
I'll give him a 5. I'll give him a 5. It's passing, I think, to me. It was cool to see them win against Burnley, and then they showed a lot of fight against United. Seriously made them work for it. I guess United aren't great right now, but still, yeah, I'd give them a 5. That's fair.
Fair enough. Next, Southampton, and looking at their games, losing 4-0 to Villa, 2-1 to Newcastle, 2-1 to Watford, drawing Leeds, losing 6-0 to Chelsea, winning against Arsenal by a 0-0. Losing 2-0 to Burnley and drawing Brighton. Really, really poor run of games and results. Jose, scores for Southampton and Ralph Hasenhüttl, and players have stood out to in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, they've been really poor. I'd probably give them a 3 or 4 out of 10.
Okay.
Their win against Arsenal was impressive enough. In terms of players, I would say Fraser Forster, especially against Arsenal, was excellent. Ben Norek scored the winning goal in that game. He was very good too. For who hasn't been very good, they haven't been very good defensively, other than Ben Norek, in my opinion. The Brazilian guy, I think his name is Lianco. He hasn't been the best. Neither has Jan Valery. It's not been as good as he once. Well, I remember when he burst onto the scene against us.
Yeah, it's always against us whenever there's a player to remember something. I don't know why. The free kick.
Yeah, very true.
Was it? Wait, oh no, it wasn't free kick. I think it was just.
No, but it was a worldie from outside the box. I remember that.
I remember you mentioned the same thing with who was it? I think it was Damari Gray.
Oh yeah. Damari Gray always scoring the bangers.
Old Trafford.
Scoring the bangers at Old Trafford. Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I definitely agree with everything that you said. Next, the one that Andre's been waiting for, Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham, where do we start with them? An emphatic 5-0 win against Everton. Just losing at Old Trafford by 3-2. And one thing I definitely fancied when Tottenham pulled it back to 2-2. That cheeky Harry Winks substitution. I'm sure Andre also fancied that. A win away against Brighton, a 3-1 win against West Ham, 5-1 win against Newcastle, a 4-0 win away at Aston Villa, losing to Brighton again at home this time, and drawing against Brentford 0-0. Scores and ratings for Tottenham Hotspur and Antonio Conte, and players other than Harry Kane and Heung-min Son, who are the obvious. They've been in tremendous form. I'd say Heung-min Son's probably been slightly better. other than Son and Kane that have stood out to you, whether it's in players in good form and not so good form?
Yeah, Dejan Kulusevski's amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Would you buy him for 30? What is it, 30, 35 million permanently?
Yeah, I'd pay 70 for per person. Like, yeah,
70.
30s. Yeah, no, I think he's the perfect fit. I think his value is only going to go up, and I
I
think
think if you said that price to Daniel Levy, I think that would put him in a hospital. Anyways, that's
but the search for someone to join that front three has been long lasting, and cool. The idea of
you might need to search again because one of them could be off potentially.
what is that?
And I said, the search to complete the front three maybe may need to happen again because a certain Englishman is 2 years left in contract, and if he leaves, they'll need a cheeky replacement. But
I think if it were to happen, then that unnamed individual and that unnamed Englishman would probably go to that color that Manchester is, and then they're probably going to get Holland or something. So it's probably going to be fine. No, but I think that front three, the idea of each of them next season finishing with double digits in both goals and assists, it would be crazy. It'd be one of the best front threes in the world. I think recently, in terms of Tottenham's results, it feels like it's been exactly Tottenham's level. They've had some extremely exciting attacking displays. I thought the win against Newcastle for me was the most promising Conte performance I've seen, and with Tottenham Hotspur, we were able to kill them pretty fast. But then it was followed by, a loss against Brighton, who, credit to them, when you play them, a fifth time this season, you expect them to finally crack the nut at least once it happened.
Fair enough.
And then, an informed Brentford side is, I guess, given that they're playing so well, it's not, detrimental, but it was because we lost fourth spot that we held for a nice 2 weeks. Then, and then you'd expect our front three to break through Brentford, but credit to them, they absolutely shut down Kane, and I think our substitutions were all wrong. So it's falling apart, but I'm hoping Conte can get the ship heading towards land again, the 100%. Top four Americas, whatever.
Scores and ratings for Antonio Conte and Tottenham, and if I can recall, did you mention a player for Tottenham that just hasn't looked great as of recent, or no?
People have been complaining about the fullbacks, the wingbacks. I guess haven't been great. I think people are too harsh on Emerson Royale.
Emerson's a great. He was great against Brighton. Phenomenal.
See, I'm not one with the Emerson hate. I think he's doing okay. I don't think he should be a starter, but I don't think. I'm not. Doherty's been amazing. To be fair, he's Roberto Carlos now. That guy is.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's like he's gone up and he's injured for the rest of the season, but Doherty seems to be playing well. I think Reguilon hasn't really been good enough.
Jose, and do you fancy that comparison that Andre just made?
Sorry, repeat
Roberto Carlos.
Yeah.
Roberto Carlos, is that what you're talking about? Yeah.
Comparing him to Conor McGregor, aka Matt Doherty.
Oh, Matt Doherty.
It
reminds me of a certain comparison I used to make between Alberto Moreno and Roberto Carlos.
Serious for the fun and bad side. Any thoughts on Andre's cheeky comparison?
Nothing.
As per usual.
I agree with Sirius.
Yeah, but
we all agree with Sirius on that one.
Anyway, I think the defenses look pretty put together. I think our starting 11 looks really solid, but we're still figuring out how to manage games, and that's going to be huge if we're going to make top four.
Yeah. Quick scores and ratings for Tottenham and Antonio Conte for this stretch of games.
Yeah, I guess I'd go a 7 for Tottenham Hotspur and a 6 for Antonio Conte.
Fair enough. Sirius, you're actually Sirius actually next, Mr. Sirius. Watford, here we go. Taking a look at Watford's recent games, Arsenal just adding a 3-2 win, losing to Wolves by 4-0. A win against at St. Mary's at Southampton by 2-1, losing to Liverpool by 2-0, losing and then losses to Leeds, Brentford, and Manchester City 3-0, 2-1, and 5-1 respectively. Sirius, if you're alive there, scores and ratings for Watford and Roy Hodgson and players that have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, sorry. My connection is a little off. But yeah, Watford has not been good recently. They've had, I think they've only won 1 out of what, 7?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think a player, if I had to pick a player that has stood out, is Hernandez.
Fair enough.
Against Southampton.
Fair enough. And quick scores and ratings for Watford and Roy Hodgson.
What?
Scores for Watford and Roy Hodgson for this run of games.
Oh yeah, I'd say 2.
All right, fair enough. Next, Andre, West Ham now. Taking a look at West Ham. Losing 3-1 to Southampton, losing to Liverpool by 0-0. But a win against Aston Villa by 2-1, losing to Tottenham by 3-1. A win against a 10-man Everton by 2-1, losing to Brentford by 2-0. A draw against Burnley 1-1 and losing to Chelsea by 0-0. Scores and ratings for West Ham and David Moyes for this run of games. And players that have stood out to you as of recent, both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, I'd probably give them a 6. I would say West Ham, I'm not sure they have the depth to do exceptionally well in the Premier League as well as their European competition. I think they've, in games quickly succeeding their European games, they haven't done great statistically. So I think that's going to be the problem for them going for the rest of the season. So they're probably going to be a bit mediocre in this competition in the Premier League, but West Ham as a whole, looking at all competitions, I think they're doing very well. I think David Moyes has completely turned the club around. They're a strong side, and they look on course to finish above that one small Manchester United. So you never know.
I don't ever want to hear you call Manchester United a small club, considering the club you support. Yes, you're doing way better than us at the moment, but I will take it. I will take it from a Liverpool fan, even from an Arsenal fan, even from a Chelsea fan. But I will not take it from a Tottenham fan. Know your place. Win a trophy first for the first time since 2009, and then you can even get closer to calling this a small club. Anyways, as you're saying, scores and ratings for David Moyes and players that have been in good form and not so great form.
Ooh, well, Declan Rice has not slowed down at all, has he? It'd be definitely. Yeah, it definitely deserves a place in the team of the year, I think. I'm definitely putting him in mine. So he hadn't slowed down. Who was I going to mention? Jared Bowen. That was it. Yeah, seriously exciting prospect. He's been a really cool signing to see flourishing at West Ham. Yeah, I'd say those two stick out in my mind. The rating for David Moyes, I'll give him an 8. He's doing very well. Yeah.
Fair enough. And a quick question to throw out for West Ham, or 2 actually. You look at their center back options. They don't have a single center back who is fit, other than Craig Dawson as of right now, as far as I know. And another question to add on to that, like Leicester, they have a Europa League semifinal, a chance to play Champions League football. Can you believe it? West Ham playing Champions League football. That's quite remarkable. Jose, question you. Do you think that they should, how do you think that they should prioritize the rest of the season with Europa League in mind? Sort of the same question I was asking Leicester in the Conference League.
I mean, I think that they should throw everything at the Europa League. I think that they've got a fan base who is a lot more excited in the Europa League than they are in the Premier League, as well as they're doing the Premier League as well. I just think that the atmosphere inside the West Ham Stadium in a Europa League knockout match is going to be 5 times as good as it is in the Premier League. So I think they need to make the most of that. And I think that they will. I think that they'll have a good run. I think they'll get to the final. I'm not sure if they'll win it. I hope they do. I'd love to see them in the Champions League.
Me too. 100%, definitely. And And Andre, quick question. I'll ask this one to you. Looking at their injury crisis at center back and seeing Craig Dawson's the only center back fit, what solutions or what solution would you bring to try and just fix this issue? Bear in mind that their next game is actually against Eintracht Frankfurt in the semifinals of the Europa League. What would you do to try and fix this gap?
Yeah, so that you're saying literally all their center back options are injured. Like you said, Diop, the cat kicker, all of them are injured. Look, I think they have a really strong double pivot. So you figure if you have to play a weaker player in center back, then you can just have one of your double pivot members just drop in a little bit between the center backs.
Yeah,
Jose.
I was gonna say I think they should move Declan Rice back and go with the old wise Mark Noble in midfield.
Yes,
that'd be
I
cool.
agree with that. Andre, would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally. I think they have enough defensive destructive players to just rotate it a bit, and it won't affect them all that much. So yeah, I think they can do it.
All right. Well, serious thoughts on that, or do you agree with Joe?
Levi, there's one thing I have to say. I agree with Joe.
Brilliant, as predicted. And last side before we get into just quick fire predictions for the fixtures this weekend, we have Wolves. Jose, over to you. Losing at home 2-0 to Crystal Palace, a win and get 4-0 against Watford. A win against Everton by 0-0, losing by 3-2 against Leeds, going down to 10 men that game. A win against Aston Villa by 2-1, losing away to Newcastle at St. James's Park by 0-0. The game against Manchester City being postponed and losing by 1-0 against Burnley. Scores and ratings for Wolves and Bruno Lage for this run of games, and players have stood out to you both in good form and not so great form.
Yeah, I think honestly, for the most part, they've continued their good form. I think that the Leeds game and the Newcastle game might disappoint them a little bit, but otherwise they've been pretty great. I mean, maybe the Palace game, but I mean, Palace have been good this season as well. So I think that they don't have too much to complain about. I would say players that stick out to me, Connor Cody and Johnny have looked excellent. The two of them, especially Johnny. I think Johnny has been their best player in the past few games. Raul Jimenez is one player I might point out. Probably the first time I've ever pointed this out for him as a player who's not in the best of form. I know he wasn't fit for all of the games, but when he has played, he hasn't really had much of a say. It's been relying on more of the defensive players to get the goals. If I were to rate them, I'd probably give them a 6 out of 10.
Fair enough. And lastly, going into the predictions for this for first off the one game midweek and for match week 35. Or just to start with 3 quick fire questions. Sirius, we'll start with you. Manchester City or Liverpool for the Premier League title?
Go with Man City. I think Pep will lead them.
Fair enough. Jose, what about you?
I'm going with Man City as well.
Andre?
Liverpool.
All right, fair enough. Next, who will end up getting 4th place? Arsenal, Tottenham, and mathematically, Manchester United are not eliminated, but highly unlikely. But we'll just throw them in there for for the lulz and the funnies. Sears, starting with you, who do you think will get 4th place? Being as non-biased as possible.
Non-biasedly Arsenal.
Okay. Jose, what about you?
Tottenham. I hope we finish 8th.
And Andre, what about you?
I'll probably go Brighton and have Albion. No. Yeah, Tottenham. I'll stick with my club.
Mopé scoring the winner to send Arsenal out of the top 4 contention. That I'd greatly fancy that. And lastly, to go down, so you'll start with you. Will it be Everton or will it be Burnley?
It will be Burnley.
I'd really fancy Sirius's mic at the moment. Jose, what about you? Will it be Everton or Burnley to go down?
I think Everton.
Andre?
Yeah, Everton to go down.
Fair enough. And now the last part of the show, going around giving out our predictions for the 1 game midweek and match day 35. Starting off with Manchester United at home against Chelsea. Jose, what do you think we'll do in this game? How do you think the end result for us will be?
I mean, I think we're gonna lose. I just don't know what the score is gonna be. 2-1 Chelsea. Ronaldo getting a goal.
Okay, fair enough. Sirius, what about you?
I'm gonna go 2-1 Man U.
Okay. Andre, what about you?
I'm gonna go 3-1 Chelsea.
Fair enough. Now into match week 35, Newcastle against Liverpool, two teams that are playing very well, but I'm sure we'll have a common denominator. I'll assume all of us will have a common denominator of a certain team winning. Jose, what about you? Oh wait, I forgot to give my own prediction. Probably 1-0 Chelsea. We just, other than Ronaldo, we can't score goals for our life, so I'll probably say 1-0 Chelsea, and they'll do what Andre adores Thomas Tuchel for. They'll just shut up shop after that. But Newcastle against Liverpool. Jose, I'll start with you.
3-1 Liverpool. Jota gets 2. I think.
Sirius, what about you?
3-0 Liverpool.
Fair enough. Andre, what about you?
I'll go 2-1 Liverpool.
Fair enough. Next, Watford hosting Burnley. Jose, I'll start with you. Oh wait, I'll credit again. I keep forgetting my own predictions. 2-0 Liverpool for me. I'll just say that. Jose, starting with you.
For me, this has 1-0 Burnley written all over it.
Fair enough. Sirius, what about you?
I'm gonna go 0-0.
Okay. Andre, what about you?
I'll go 2-0 Burnley also.
I'll say the same, 2-0 Burnley as well. Next, Southampton hosting Crystal Palace. Jose, starting with you.
Palace, I'd say 2-1.
Sirius, what about you?
No joking, 0-0 again.
Okay. Andre, what about you?
I'll go 1-1.
All right, fair enough. I'll go 2-1 Crystal Palace. Aston Villa hosting Norwich. Jose?
2-0 Villa.
Sirius, what about you?
0-0.
Sirius is quite confident on 0-0 for the majority of these games. And Andre, what about you?
I'll go 3-0 Villa.
That's what I was thinking as well. You read my mind. I was thinking 3-0 as well. Next, Wolves hosting Brighton. Jose?
That's a tougher one. 1-1.
Sirius, what about you?
I'm gonna be different this time. 0-0.
I feel like Sirius is doing this for the banter right now. Andre, what about you? If you read my mind. What are you saying?
That's tough. I'll go for a thriller. Let's go 2-2. That'd be crazy. Let's go 2-2.
2-2. I'm thinking 2-1 Wolves. Next, Leeds hosting Manchester City. Jose, starting with you.
2-1 Man City.
Okay, Sirius, surely this can't be a 0-0. Leeds hosting Manchester City. Surely.
Never know, Devi.
Leeds 0, Man City 2.
We love it. We love it, Sirius. We love it. And Jose, make a very good point. You never know with Sirius with anything. Andre, what about you?
I'll go 2-0.
I'll say 3-0 Manchester City. Next, Tottenham hosting Leicester. The two contenders for the 2016 Premier League title. Although we all know how that one ended. Jose, starting with you.
0-0.
Sirius, I'm anticipating what your score prediction is going to be for this game.
Well, Joe just steal my answer. 0-0.
Andre, what about you?
3-1 Spurs.
I'll say 2-1 Tottenham. Next, Everton hosting Chelsea. Jose.
I don't know. Chelsea or shit. I'll go with a cheeky 1-0 Everton with the Jose prediction of the week.
Yo, if that's the prediction of the week, then you deserve a round of applause for that one. Serious, what about this one? This one cannot be a 0-0. Surely not.
Yes, it can.
Or maybe, possibly.
You said Everton?
Everton hosting Chelsea.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go Everton 0, Chelsea 1.
Fair enough. Andre, what about you?
0-0.
Okay, fair enough. I'll say 3-1 Chelsea. Second to last game, West Ham, who have no senior center backs other than Craig Dawson available. Serious, I'll emphasize that one. No senior center backs available other than Craig Dawson available. Up against Arsenal at home. West Ham being at home. Jose, I'll start with you.
I don't know. This is a tougher one. It's the best club in London against Arsenal, so it's gonna be an interesting one. I'd go 5-1 West Ham.
Okay, serious.
Thank you, Joe. 3-0 Arsenal.
3-0 Arsenal. Andre, what about you?
I feel like Arsenal always do pretty well against West Ham. I'll go 3-1 Arsenal also.
All right, fair enough. I'll go 3-1 Arsenal as well. And last game, Manchester United hosting Brentford. Jose.
1-1.
You read my mind. I was actually going to go 1-1 as well.
With Fred getting a goal. I'll add that.
Serious, what about you?
0-0 for sure.
And Andre, lastly, over to you.
Let's go 2-2.
Thank you so much for your time watching this. If you've liked what you've seen here in today's latest showing of Premier League Prime Time, smash like on the video, comment down below, let us know what you're thinking. All fan opinion is loved and welcomed here. We love to hear what you have to say about what's been mentioned in this showing of Premier League Prime Time. Subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to at least 150 subscribers, and if we somehow get there, we hope to go even further than that. And hey, we're not just here. Go check us out. We're on Instagram. We're also on Apple Podcasts. We're on iTunes and we're on Spotify. And wherever you're watching this in the world, please have a great day or evening.